What is up, guys? Sonduren Canadian Rider. This is the fourth episode of the Downshift Podcast, and we're going to be talking to my good friend about how Tesla has ignited the electric revolution for automobiles. In today's episode, we're going to be covering a whole bunch of literal user experiences. My buddy's had the car for about 8 months to a year. We'll be talking about a whole bunch of different topics, but I want to introduce my friend to talk about Teslas, and thank you for coming on to the podcast. One of the things I want to talk about, especially in an environment like today, people are looking to buy a new car. There's lots of different options in the market, especially in the range of the Tesla Model 3. That's about $50,000 to $75,000 Canadian out the door. You're looking at Audi A3s, BMW. The 3 Series has been a main contender of all of these cars. What made you decide, you know what, right now is the time to buy an electric vehicle? And I think this is important for a lot of people like yourself, because you're thinking about, you need a long-term daily driver. You're not buying a car necessarily just for like having it for a year or two. What were those things that were stopping you maybe previously towards buying something like that? And what pushed you over to the edge to say, you know what, it's worth the investment to get an actual electric vehicle?
I already put my deposit down when the Tesla Model 3 was first announced, so I kind of already had it in my mind. I think I already jumped on the electric bandwagon a little bit earlier, just because my family cars, my parents already owned 2 hybrids before that. We had a Toyota Camry hybrid and a Kia Optima. So I kind of already knew the benefits of going electric, or at least the hybrid movement. But yeah, I guess the next step for me was just, I saw the Model 3, and it was always my goal to have like a BMW as my life goal of having a
Right.
nicer car. So I was like, this is just an equivalent. If not, it's probably a lot more smarter and a lot more better. Again, back then, I think it was like 2015 or so. I can't remember when it was exactly announced. They didn't have any specs on it. It was just putting $1,000 deposit down, and you're just putting yourself in line for a car for the advertised price of 32,000. I was like, at the time, 32,000 for a electric car was definitely affordable. It was also, this is coming up from my other car is a Hyundai Elantra GT, so it was within budget, and I was like, you know what, I could probably move into that, and it's something that you wouldn't have to worry too much about maintenance. Again, Tesla's at the time was fairly new. They only had the S, and then the X just came out more recently, like the 20. I'm just making up numbers, 2016, I think. But they only had a certain amount of information on it, like the data, how long degradation would be. So it wasn't super fully fleshed out yet. Obviously, the car's gotten a lot better since then. So that's why I didn't initially take the first jump in 2017. Sorry, 2018, I think it was, when it came to Canada. So I think in December or so, 2017 was when it first was launched to the public in 2017 in the US, right? And I know it was like full of lots of problems, like body alignment issues and minor things. So I gave it some time to just wait it out. Like I think I was like I can't remember the term, but like the first person to get in line to see those cars. And I just wanted to see what all the reviews were about first, and see how everyone handled it, especially in Canada with our winter. So after 2 years, they did a lot of the fixes. So by the time I got it in March, they did fix a lot of the body issues. And like with Tesla, they're always improving the car with software updates. So I remember, actually, it wasn't even on my radar. And then on September, their sales rep called me and it's like, hey, you want to come in for a test drive? Honestly, I wasn't even thinking of getting even buying a car. Like, it wasn't on the radar. It was kind of like, I had the deposit down. And September, they called me randomly out of the nowhere, and they're like, hey, you want to come in for a test drive? I noticed that you've had your car for a while, you haven't done anything, or sorry, you had your reservation for a while, you haven't done anything. And I was like, sure, why not? I've never driven a car, never sat in a Tesla before, other than in the showroom at Yorkdale. And yeah, I guess at the time it was their their push to meet their Q3 numbers, and they were pushing everything. They were giving color choice. They were giving 3 options. You can either choose your choice of color for the car, the interior white option, or a set of rims. So you get to choose 2 out of 3 options. But the thing is, you have to have it delivered by the end of September, which was kind of expedited, because I think they called me mid-September, meaning I had to like make a decision, then have whatever payment to pay for it, and have it in my hands before September 30th, so that they can meet their aggressive Q3 goals.
That sales push, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember driving it for the first time, and it's like, they literally just said, like, here's a key card, just drive it wherever. And I was just like, no salesperson in the car, you can drive it for as long as you want. So I kind of drove maybe 20 kilometers or so.
They
Drove
were
around
that easy with it for
yeah,
like a hot Tesla?
yeah, they were just like, yeah, just drive whatever. And yeah, I remember it was like a rainy day. So I was at the Yorkdale, or sorry, not Yorkdale, Lawrence and Don Mills location. And I drove it for like, 20, 30 minutes, drove it on the highway, drove it around. And then like I let my wife drive it as well. And it was very different because of the regenerative braking. And at the time, they didn't have one pedal driving, but it was still regenerative braking. You didn't have to press the brakes too often. But yeah, it was like compared to a combustion engine car, it's night and day in terms of the experience.
And if you haven't, by the way, seen the video yet, I will link it in the card above for anyone that's interested. I did take the car out for a first drive and review, and a lot of those things that he experienced, I definitely experienced my first time. But at least I had someone to help me walk through it all. So it was quite a jarring experience coming from a regular internal combustion engine.
Yeah. Yeah, the sales guy like didn't really explain anything, just like, here's how to adjust your wheels, when you're braking, or how to turn on the car, how to reverse, and yeah, go have fun. I was like, all right. So yeah, that was September. And after that, it was like always on my mind. I was like, oh, should we not that I would get it right away. Like we have like a Yaris as well. That's our second car. And so I remember in December, I was thinking, oh, maybe they'll do another Q4 end of the year sales push to be like, here's your free rims, here's your free colors and stuff like that. Obviously didn't happen. So then I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And I guess, so what kind of, I would say what pushed me over to buying the car, but in January, our Yaris shit the bed, and it was pretty much dead. It couldn't, like, the brakes were dead. And I was like, didn't really feel like it couldn't justify paying to fix it,
Right.
opposed to like any value back. So we decided to, look into getting the second car. And I guess Tesla was kind of just like a nice option to have. I guess other cars that I was comparing to, I guess for practicality purposes, I was also looking at like just a regular CUV, just for family purposes and for our daily activities. We do a lot of road trips. We'll go to the cottage and stuff like that. And then the other options, we're looking at the Kona, Hyundai Kona EV.
Yep.
That was kind of like the mid ground. So I think I was looking at the Hyundai Tucson, not relevant or anything, but I was looking at CUVs, Kona EV, and then the Tesla Model 3. I think those were my primary options. I wasn't looking at any other EVs, just because at the time, not even at the time, but there aren't really many options. There's like the Volt, not really feeling it. The Prius, again, not really feeling it.
There weren't too many like uber compelling options
Yeah,
other than the Tesla for a fully electric car, I don't think, at that
like I
time.
think Audi has I don't know the model, but it's like a e-tron something.
That's still
Uh,
not even out though, right? That's
yeah,
they're coming out with it soon, I heard, which is
I
obviously going to
thought
be
they
competing.
had one model that was like you can go full electric for a certain amount of kilometers, or you can go gas. I don't know which model it is. My friend.
Okay, so that might be a different model than I'm
Yeah,
thinking of. They have a new sedan that's coming out,
yeah,
the e-tron, which is going to be competing with Tesla pretty
yeah.
deeply.
So I was comparing the cars, and yeah, Tesla had a lot of perks, but the main con was it was super expensive compared to like all the other cars and everything. And I finally bit the bullet, put an order on like February, and yeah, early February. And I guess it depends on the cycle of where they ship their cars. So I think they'll do regions. They'll do like North America or Canada and US, then they'll do Europe, and they'll do Asia, or just like various like right-hand drive cars. So at least it's staggered, and they just do a bulk shipment. And I just so happened to be like the timing was great, so that I got my Tesla Model 3 within 4 weeks. Usually they say between 5 and 8 weeks. So they were pretty quick. I just so happened like the timing. And yeah, I got it early March. And yeah, it
So
was
did
just a
you go
lot.
on a test drive, by the way, on the Kona? Did you test drive those other cars before you made your decision? It sounded like you
So
kind of made that decision quick.
my mom has a Kona, not the EV, but just a regular Kona. So I already sat in it. I know how it feels like, but I haven't really driven it. In terms of other EVs, my friend has the Hyundai Ioniq EV, and I didn't get to drive it, but I sat as a passenger. It was pretty smooth. I mean, it got a decent amount of acceleration considering it's a electric car, but comparing to a Tesla Model 3, it's not the same in terms of EV, but it has it doesn't have as much range, I think.
What was it called
Um,
again?
the Ioniq.
Ionic. Is this
Yeah.
the ugly one?
Um,
I don't know. I guess that's
it's,
subjective,
I
right?
mean, yeah, I wouldn't say it's ugly, but it's not like,
Okay.
it's a, it's like a sedan. It's nothing
Looks like a
crazy.
regular
Yeah, it's
Kia
not like,
sedan.
doesn't look like it's a EV, doesn't look like anything out of the ordinary. But I guess I was more leaning towards the EV, the Tesla, just because one, you know, I own stock for it. So it's almost like I'm already invested in it. And two, I guess it was practical enough. It wasn't like an EV where it's like, oh, you have to do certain things to maintain it and you don't get the range. And actually, so I was originally looking at the SR Plus just because of the federal rebate, but then I was thinking, for an extra whatever $10,000 or 15 after tax or something, and then actually even more with the EV rebate or the federal rebate, you get range. And I think that was one of the biggest factors. Range and having all-wheel drive would have been nice. Like, I guess with Canadian winters, I had a Super before, so I did miss that all-wheel drive, not safety, but the comfort of and confidence of driving in the winter. And then, yeah, I think those are the two main deal breakers between the SR Plus and the long range, where range and I think so it's an extra 100 kilometers of range, but that's even more significant in the winter when winter degradation or winter range degradation is a real thing. I never experienced it, but I read from other people or other reviews that was like between 30 and 50%, which is pretty significant, especially in the winter. Mind you, I'm not sure we're not doing a lot of long range trips, but it's definitely factor that you have to think of when you are making that decision.
People like you, they're looking at purchasing a new car, maybe their old one's kicking the pooch. They have a bunch of other options in terms of like EVs, hybrids, or just going full electric. It sounds like to me you made your mind up. Like obviously full electric was the way to go, and it was worth that price premium because you did mention it was a little bit more expensive, probably a lot more expensive than the Kona.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, even the Kona, I think it starts at like 40, 45 or something like that.
Okay.
Or maybe 40. I could be wrong. You may have to double check on that. But yeah, it was more. I think the other thing that pushed me towards Tesla was their infrastructure, their charging infrastructure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot more charging stations that are specific for Tesla, as well. Tesla being the EV leader, I guess I would assume, a lot of third-party companies want to provide charging for Tesla. So, for example, hotels, restaurants, they all have Tesla chargers because it's an extra incentive for people to go to their restaurant to charge at their place.
Wow, I did not know that. So there are hotels that have these Tesla chargers there?
Yeah. So I don't remember the resort last year. I don't know if you have to exit this out, but they had a Tesla charger there. Or when I go to Prince Edward County, there's a restaurant out there, like a winery that has a Tesla charger, and it's just an extra incentive to go there, eat your dinner, come back, and it's on the house. But it's like
Right.
a lot of hotels, it's like it's a little an extra factor to be like, oh, maybe I'll charge it or I'll go to stay at this hotel because they have a Tesla charger, and I don't have to go. Especially if you're doing a road trip, you don't have to worry about going somewhere else to charge for like 30 minutes, come back to the hotel. You can just leave it there. And yeah, I think with Tesla too, they were just very progressive, I guess progressive is the right word, in terms of coming up with ideas for improving the automotive industry. And it was that next step of how to get the best out of your car. Like you get a car like any other car, and what you get is what you get. You don't get improvements, but you don't really experience those software updates until you get the car and you're like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. It's like your phone. Your phone gets a new iOS update or Android update. Your apps get a better update just to do things better, fix bugs. And yes, your car does have bugs, but I think in today's society, we're almost like used to having bugs. You get a video game, first thing you have to do is download like a 2 gig update just to play it. You get a new phone, first thing you do, update to the latest patch. And yes, you get bugs, you get over it. It's not like making or breaking your life or anything, but
And at least they're fixing it, right? So as
yeah.
long as issues come and you have the ability to get software updates over the air.
Okay, yeah, exactly. It's over the air. You don't, I mean, you could use your Wi-Fi to do it faster, but your car is always connected to not cell service, but like the internet somewhere. And I think I remember reading stories about like Tesla just helping, like they're able to push updates on the fly. Like I remember there was the flooding in, I don't remember, in the States somewhere, like Georgia or Texas. I don't know. I'm just making some random states like South Carolina or something like that, or hurricane or something like that. And they were able to push an over there update to give cars an extra like 10, 20, 30 kilometers of range just so that they can get over to the hot zone.
I
So,
heard about that. That's crazy.
so like little things like that, it's almost like you would never hear of any other company doing that. Little things like their Google Maps, sorry, not their map, but their maps. It's like based off the Google API. You don't have to worry about updating it. You don't have to worry about looking into or paying companies to update the maps. Like I think
Yes.
BMW makes you pay every year to update their map. It's like,
Yes. Audi, a lot of the German manufacturers do the exact same thing. It's terrible.
So I guess after reading all those or hearing all those reviews, it's almost like just extra. It's checking a lot of tick boxes you don't think you would need, but it's definitely convenient. But yeah, I think that was almost the natural progression to go, okay, go into the Tesla. Even though I swore to myself I would never buy an American car. This is coming from my parents used to own a Ford Topaz, and it was a
Okay.
big box. So yeah, I said I'd never buy an American car, but I'm glad I did. It's definitely a nice change.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider this your typical American car that you
Yeah,
think of, General Motors, all that
yeah,
stuff. So, it sounds like to me, and maybe I'm wrong, and I only went on the first drive-in review, and that was an amazing experience, but you've had the car for almost a year, you've been driving internal combustion engines for so long previously to that. Do you feel like right now there is anything missing? So for anyone that's looking to buy, they're like, but I'm gonna miss something about a gas engine. Do you have any of that? Do you miss any part of a gasoline engine?
I think the only thing I do miss is the sound of an aftermarket exhaust. Like
Okay,
that is
yes.
the only thing I would probably miss. It's very sometimes it could be therapeutic. If you're a car guy, it
Yeah.
does sound nice and it's almost like too quiet. But honestly, I don't miss much. Like I don't miss going to like to the gas station,
Yeah.
especially during COVID. I
Right.
like I never really did too much with the car. Like I'll like I don't do oil changes. I don't have to bring it to an oil change. The only service thing that the sales guys, or not the service guys, when you pick up the car, the only thing that they tell you to do is make sure you top up your windshield washer fluid. So you don't have
Mm.
to worry about anything else. I mean, even with the car, you don't change the oil that often. You change it every like 6,000 or 6 months, whatever they say.
Hmm.
But it's just like that extra little task of, oh, I got to book an appointment. I have to go there and do it. And I guess it doesn't cost that much, like 60, $70 or something like that, but it adds up. And then eventually after like a certain amount of kilometers, you have to do a major service. And that's stuff you don't even have to think about with I would say an EV. I don't know if it's just Tesla, but with any EV, it's like all these little things you don't have to worry about anymore.
So maybe this is actually a good segue into the next topic, which I want to talk about is the future of the internal combustion engine. You just said something the main thing that you miss about it is just the sound. Something so, frivolous, to be honest with you, for people that are looking to get transported from A to B, but sounds important for people that think of this as a hobby. So I personally think that in the future, internal combustion engines, and I actually don't know how far in the future, it could be a lot sooner than we think. I think they're going to become a niche market in North America. I'm not talking about third world countries yet or anything, but I think North America, certain areas in Europe, I think it's going to be niche to high performance vehicles. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what I really think, because I can't see any of the downfalls of electric only vehicles. Like you just said, it was only the sound that you miss, has nothing to do with getting from point A to B.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. Like with all these, like with more people getting electric, it's almost like it's going to make everything else that isn't electric rare. And it'll just make it that more appealing to at least the people who do appreciate the automotive combustion engine a lot more better. It'll take some time. It's not going to be immediate, but it's definitely going to get some. It needs some push from like the government. I know, like with President Biden, he signed a new executive order or something like that to make all government vehicles electric by a certain time. So it'll just further, I guess, put that into people's minds. Like it may not be everyone, but it's like that post driver who's driving an electric vehicle. He's like, well, I like this car. Maybe I should get one for home, and then it's just gonna like snowball from there. Even for like friends, all you need is one person. Like I think I'm the actually no, my other friend with the INAC, but no one else that I know has an electric vehicle, but they all want to know about it. Or my neighbors, they saw it for the first time, and I had like literally an hour conversation with him because he doesn't. I guess he heard about it, but he doesn't know anyone that personally owns one. So for him, it's like completely new. Or like my mom, she was asking about my car and how it, like when I back into the garage, it's like, oh, watch out for the CO2. I was like, Mom, it doesn't provide CO2. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So it's like all these little things that many people aren't aware of and they don't know too much about. But yeah, it's just an education process. People, it has to just go more mainstream. And right now, Tesla's more for people who are tech savvy, that are a little bit, not saying that it's not for tech savvy, but people who are more tech savvy would be more aware of it. It's more like in mainstream toward that demographic.
And I think the push, like you just mentioned what Biden's doing in America, but also look at what Canada's doing. There's a tax credit actually right now for Canadian businesses where you can write off up to $55,000 for your business if you pick up an electric vehicle. And this write off is not depreciated over an amount of years like a capital asset. It's a single line item write off in year one as an expense, up to $55,000. I know you're looking at
Oh,
me like
I've
you're
never heard
it's
of that one before.
exactly. I never heard of that one until I talked to my accountant like a week ago.
Mhm.
And I mentioned this to him. He's like, oh, no, this is a new initiative by the Canadian government because they
Oh
want
shit.
to go ahead and make sure businesses are using efficient green vehicles. And this is, I think, what Tesla also has behind their back into this is, climate change. Like what's happening with climate change around the world. People think of automotive vehicles that are consuming gas as being obviously one of the major contributors into this. So Tesla's not only like riding this wave of, this is just a better way for transportation to be done in the future, but it's also killing two birds with one stone, and it's
Mhm.
changing the way we're dependent on fossil fuels with every car today, all the trucks. Tesla's working on their semi as well. So I think they have those kind of two things that are pushing them into mainstream or mass market production of these cars for people.
Yeah, for sure. Plus, like their work with Solar City, their
Yeah.
information with SpaceX. So not information, but their technology with SpaceX. They're just taking all that and like putting that in that technology and that knowledge into improving their cars and their efficiency. So it's like the company as in general, they're all just trying to, I won't say fix the human race, but they're just trying to make it a better place. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to jump on the bandwagon or anything, but like even with like Elon Musk, like he's super smart, but like at least he's doing some good things. He's not like trying to like destroy the earth too much, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's definitely still making a lot of money. Let's not
yeah,
forget, but at least the things that he's doing are helping in terms of like what the Earth needs.
yeah,
Off of fossil fuels. Tesla's one way. He's obviously taking the money from Tesla to invest it in SpaceX.
yeah.
Get us to Mars one day. Who knows if that'll happen? The one thing I will say though, with what Tesla's done in igniting this revolution, one. Two, you have government backing to go ahead and ditch the reliance on fossil fuels for, gasoline vehicles. you know, I remember, I think maybe 5 years ago, I thought, electric cars, that's a long time away.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think about it, like, even being a good option for Canadians because you hear everything about the cold weather impacting batteries. You have your batteries in your cameras, like, even the camera I'm recording right now, it gets impacted by cold weather and I lose 50% of it.
Yeah.
But those things are being fixed. When do we see like true mass market adoption? I know Tesla is potentially working on an even cheaper version. There are rumors of that in the future.
Yeah.
And when that point comes, I don't know how people would decide I want a gas car at that point.
I think the biggest factor is the cost. The cost of the
Yeah.
battery is the main differentiating factor, and I can't remember their threshold per kilowatt. Like it's like $100. I could be making that up again, but once they can get that, then it's literally just that's the biggest expense of the car, the
Right.
battery. Everything else is like steel or technology or software and everything. So, I mean, up like if you had like two cars, exact same price, but one is EV, like why would you want to go for gas, right? That's it's
Yeah.
the convenience of it. Maybe there's range, but even then, like the range compared to like 5 years ago is just that much better. The charging stations, at least with Tesla, they're like you can go cross country, Canada, or East Coast, West Coast, Canada, or even in the States. There's just so many. But I think the at least in the States, just because they have so many Teslas, I know there's a lot of people that sometimes have to wait in line to charge. But here in Canada, like on the map, it'll actually show you how many free stalls there are. There's never any that are completely full. Maybe it's because of COVID, but
And look, like we're talking about range, but what's the honest true range you can get out of any car that's a gas engine? I maybe get from my Lexus IS350, it's a 2006, max on the highway full tank, I get 600 kilometers.
yeah, I get like 550 on my Elantra, and which is pretty good. Like I think on my so on the Tesla long range that I have, it's rated for 518 or so at the time that I bought it, the February model or whatever it is. We did one road trip to Prince Edward County, and I did like the full amount in the middle of the summer with AC running at least the first half. When we came home, it was like at night, so it wasn't maybe not running as much. But I think we hit 470 or so, 480. So it wasn't the full 518 or five that they stated, but it was pretty good. Like it's not like I'm ever going to go it's not often that I'm going to do the full like trips. Like I'll do some trips to like Montreal or like to the East Coast before, but you just have to do a little bit more planning. And it's not like you can't do it, but you just have to plan your route a bit more better. And actually, that's one thing that Tesla does for you. They will, if you say you put your destination to go from like here to like say Nova Scotia, it'll track how long it takes to, not how long, but the distance it takes to get there, and where are the most optimal spots to charge along your route, as well
Right.
like planning everything. Like by the time you get to this supercharger station, you're going to have 20% left, or you like go further and sorry, like go further and have like 10% left. And you just want to maximize your time spent there. So it's like a cell phone. It'll charge the quickest from 0 to 50%, and then it'll just kind of throttle it down. So it's not as quick for the last like 10 kilometers or 10, 20%. So same thing with charging. Like you want to go arrive when you're close to empty, charge really quickly. And then after 50%, it'll kind of like slow down and maybe charge a little bit more. And it'll be near empty when you're at the next charging station. I think that's another factor for making that decision. Refilling your gas car would probably take like 5 minutes. Refilling your electric car could take 30 to 40, I guess depending on the state of charge, 30 to 60 minutes. So if you're in a rush, maybe gas isn't your thing. But if you're driving like 500 kilometers, you're on a road trip, like I'm assuming you're on a road trip with your family, take that time to like get some food, take some time to like go groceries or stretch your legs or something like that. But if you're driving like 500 kilometers daily for your commute and you have to charge it, maybe electric isn't the thing, but you shouldn't be commuting 500
Then I
kilometers.
feel bad for
Yeah.
what you do. Oh
Yeah.
God, that sounds horrible.
So
But like, even look at like the new Model S that just came out, right? The Plaid Plus version gives you 836 kilometers of range.
yeah,
That's a
not
lot
even
of
that.
range.
It's like a diesel car. It's not like you're going to ever drive that all in one day, right? So
Yeah. And
and
that's just what they're doing right now. And they're updating it either with software or through revisions in their technology of their battery.
yeah,
Like you just mentioned, they did that they added 20 to 30 kilometers of range in a software update for people.
yeah.
Is that stuff that's mind blowing? And I'm just looking at, the Model S and even charging times. They're obviously making strides to improve the charging times. I think that's one of the, main things that people are worried about is those charging times.
Oh,
You
yes.
haven't used too many superchargers though, have you?
No, I've used zero superchargers. So I forgot
Okay.
to say that this is another reason, it wasn't a deciding factor, but with the Model 3 SR Plus, you can only charge to a certain speed. They can only, the V2 superchargers, they can only connect to that, but they can't really maximize the charge rate of the V3 superchargers.
Yes.
So with the long range model, you can maximize that efficiency. So it's like, I think it's like 250 kilometers per hour for the charge. Like it charges really, really quick for it. But there's only a certain amount of V3 chargers in Canada, at least. I don't even know if there's any in the GTA, but I think they try to put it more on highway roads. So like if you're going cross country, you just charge quicker. And that's something, just a nice kind of reason why I kind of also chose the long range over the SR Plus, was the ability to charge at V3. But haven't had to use it. I charge it at home all the time. I go on, yeah, even on that one road trip or going up to the cottage in Barrie, yeah, I could make it home with the same charge with still like 30-40% left.
And another thing we actually didn't talk about, because there's just so many advantages to this, it's like we're going through the list, but most people in their daily driving, what do they want out of a car to feel strong? What do you need in terms of like accelerating on an on-ramp or passing somebody? You need torque.
Yeah.
And this car has just instant torque. It literally, you put your foot down on the pedal and you're just gone. There's no downshifting. There's no waiting for the engine RPM to rev up. There's no catching the clutch, so you're engaging in your gear. It's just instant power. And that's actually what most people care about. It's not like I need 1,000 horsepower. What they need is to be able to go from 30 to maybe 70 very quickly, right? To actually be safe when you're driving. And Tesla has that. And that's the benefit of electric cars.
Yeah. I think the easiest way to explain it, like this instant torque, is having an electric drill. Like you just squeeze it and it's just accelerate like quickly, like just spinning, spooling. Whereas you don't have to wait for like a delay for gas to like combust to turn it. It's almost like instant acceleration. You release it, instant off. And I think that's the easiest way to explain how a electric vehicle works. It's just like instant on, instant off.
Yeah. And most people don't need like anything more than, honestly, for street driving, 300 horsepower. That's fine. But it's about the torque, because most people are going from 0 to 60. 0 to 100. Nobody's doing, I look at Tesla, they're claiming you could do up to 200 or 320 kilometers per hour on the new Model S. But,
Yeah.
those are the fun stats, which, by the way, is like supercar, blows supercars out of the water in a lot of cases, which is still messed up for maybe a quarter of the price. But for most people, again, like you look at some of the benefits we just talked about, range, that's not an issue anymore. You're getting software updates. The technology is constantly changing. Power, perfect. You have more power, better, more usable power than an internal combustion engine, right? And then we just didn't even talk about this part two, no repairs. Like, what did Tesla tell you? What was the maintenance cycle for these cars?
Yeah, just I don't think there was any maintenance cycle. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they have their owner's manual where they're saying like, check the brakes, but with the one pedal driving where you don't even use the brakes, you don't really have to like. I probably use the brakes 3% of the time, like more during the winter time because you can't. The battery's not at optimal temperatures for recharging, but in the summertime, like I really, rarely ever use it unless it's an emergency and I have to like brake at the last second. But you just kind of let off the pedal and let the gas or the engine, sorry, the battery regenerative brake your car.
Right. And this is another thing. Like when you think about the cost equation of should I invest more in an electric car, gas, all this other stuff, but then repairs. People a lot of times think, oh, I don't need to worry about the repairs. But
Actually,
over time, right, you think about you need to change your oil, you need to change your spark plugs, your air filter, all of these other pieces that you don't necessarily need to do for a car like this. Transmission oil changes, all of these things that are happening, you don't necessarily think about, but they take time. They cost money, and just more problems that can happen. Like the more variables you have to control, the more issues can potentially arise.
so I think actually maybe one con is maybe the cost of repairing a Tesla if you do so happen to get into an accident is maybe a little
Mm,
bit more just because they don't have you have to go to a specialized Tesla. You don't have to, but like a lot of probably mechanics aren't aware of how to fix it or like body shops or anything. And then one thing too is insurance of the car. It wasn't that much different. I'm actually just paying $10 more on insurance. Like obviously your driving record, your location probably affects it, but yeah, it wasn't too much more. Like I thought it'd be a lot more, but yeah, it wasn't. This is comparing a Hyundai Elantra to a Tesla Model 3. So for
So that's a
comparison.
great point, actually, that I didn't talk about. We didn't actually mention yet. Is none of these Teslas really, the Model 3s, are out of warranty yet, right? Because they all have 8-year, 240,000
True.
kilometer
Yeah.
warranties
Yeah. On the battery or drivetrain or something like yeah, I can't
on the
remember.
battery and
Yeah.
drivetrain. You bring up a good point. When those do go out of warranty, what's going to happen, because you can't really go to an independent mechanic. I doubt there are too many at all, right? It's just Teslas, or Tesla is the only people that can really fix these cars if something mechanically goes wrong.
I know they have like Tesla authorized mechanics. Like they probably like give you like a training course and then they're able to learn. Because I know like I've
Okay.
seen some where they say like, oh, we are a Tesla authorized mechanic on site or something
Right.
like that. But actually one good thing about Tesla, which is sorry, not related to the warranty, but they have the mobile service, which was super, super convenient. Like never experienced it in my life, but I had to get like a little minor body panel fix. Like the door was slightly misaligned when we received it. And yeah, they came to our house, fixed it in like 5-10 minutes, and they're on the way. I didn't have to like the convenience. So you can also get them to come over to change their winter tires as well. It's like those little convenience things that are super handy. I don't know how much it costs, but it's like they'll come to you. It's like one less thing to worry about.
How long is that? Part of the entire warranty period, or is that only for a specific amount of time you get that service?
I don't know because it's more like I think I flagged it when I first got the car. I guess they were super busy because they had a lot of deliveries, so they just said like log it on your Tesla app as a service thing. And so I logged it like the more like while I was still at the Tesla dealership taking photos of it in the Tesla dealership to say this is aligned, there's a scratch here, and yeah, they couldn't do it right away, so they said like they'll send a mobile technician, and yeah, they just came over and fixed it when the time came. When like obviously like when I got it was like during COVID, so they had to delay it a bit. But yeah, they came to our house without an issue.
And this is another cool thing too, because a lot of manufacturers aren't doing this kind of what I call on-demand service, right? Like we're in a world today where I feel I'm so used to getting my things to my house on demand where I am. I order everything on Amazon. All
Yeah,
the products just get shipped to my door. I have food that comes to my door. I know it sounds like a pretty sad, privileged life here, but it is nice having somebody come to your place to do the repairs instead of, having to make the time to go visit a dealership, wait in the lobby, have a bunch of people try to fix it. Here, somebody just comes right to your door
Yeah.
and does the
So
repair.
actually, another thing that was kind of weird at first, but the car doesn't have a spare tire. So when you have an accident with a spare tire, you just log it on your app, and Tesla will send someone to you to fix your tire or repair it or whatever. I don't know the velocity of it, like how fast they come. But again, that's another thing. You don't have to deal with like shady, like tow truck drivers. Not saying that all tow truck drivers are shady, but you
A
don't have to
lot of
deal
them are. Hey, no. There's a big story about this in Toronto, and there was actually the police department were actually involved with the tow truck drivers here to scam people. I personally was almost getting scammed one time when my Ducati broke down on the highway, and they tried to scam me.
Yeah.
So, I will say that this is true. I personally experienced it. There are. So if you could avoid dealing with that, and I know a lot of people, they have anxiety to call a tow truck driver because of
Yeah.
those stories. So having somebody from Tesla, right, that
Yeah.
you can trust is good instead of some random third party.
So yeah, they'll come to you to fix your flat tire for you. Obviously, you have to pay for it, but again, you're trusting Tesla and the company. So it was a little weird. I was like, I don't have a spare tire, but in the 20 years I've ever driven a car, I've only had to fix my flat tire once. So
Right.
it's not very often, like knock on wood,
And is
but
that in the app or you just call a number?
it's in the app.
It's
Yeah,
in
you
the
just
app.
everything's in the app. So I mean, just make sure you have a cell service and you can just log a ticket and they'll call you. So I don't know if you can actually call them. I've never tried it, but I know in the service button it'll have like a various options to whatever for fix or service. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about this other topic. I know this is one of the reasons why I originally said to myself, I don't know if it's the right time to buy a Tesla yet. Because you read the stats and you see, hey, like your Tesla Model 3 long range can go about 530 kilometers, right? You read that, and just personally me, and I deal with lots of technology and products that have batteries, okay? My camera, it's got batteries, my monitor has batteries, my lighting has batteries, everything's got batteries. And the one thing I know is that in cold temperatures, my batteries get destroyed. Like I lose 50%. Sometimes they just die randomly because of the extreme cold. This was my core hesitation. I loved everything Tesla was doing. I just couldn't see myself buying a car knowing that I'm going to get 40% of the battery range and I may have range anxiety in the future because it's not going to get me to where I need to get to, and I'm going to have that problem. And I didn't want to feel like I was constrained like that. You've had this car for a year. You've gone through a Canadian winter. You have the long range. Tell us, should people be worried about range anxiety in your opinion?
Depending on what you're doing, like if you're going to drive like 200-kilometer trip, just charge it up. Make sure that when where you are arriving, that there's a supercharger en route or at the end or at the destination, in case you do feel that anxiety. Battery degradation in the winter is a real thing. Like I was just trying to do some tests and the main factor is like the cabin heating. That just because the Model 3 that I have doesn't have the water or the heat pump. So I know the newer Model Ys and the Model 3s, the 2021 models at least, have the heat pump, which is a bit more efficient with the in-cabin heating. But usually when I drive and I'm driving on my own, I just turn heating off. Like that, this is what they recommend. Just turn the heating off and just turn your seat warmers on. And then that way you stay warm. And so in the summer, my average kilowatt hour per kilometer, is it kilometer? Yeah, whatever the stat, they have like this onboard app, is 150 kilowatts per kilometer. So that's my average efficiency or for optimal temperatures. In the wintertime, if you turn off all the heat and turn off your seat warmers too, you're pretty close to like 155 to 160. As soon as you turn on the heat, it jumps up to like 180. So you are losing a good amount of efficiency. Same thing with like heat warmers and everything else. But it's not as bad as it seems. Like, yes, there's a lot of factors to increasing your battery degradation. Like when your battery's not optimal temperatures, you don't have regenerative braking, so you can't add more battery to it. When it's a cold battery, it takes longer to. I think it's just keeping the battery at an optimal temperature also uses energy. For example, like if I leave my car in the garage, it'll lose kilometers just because it has to make sure that the battery is at an optimal temperature, and then you need heat to do that, so it's not able to generate that. So like just sitting there in Mind you, like I'm in not an insulated, but an enclosed garage, it's still able to lose some range. But like if I were at like a GO train station or a TTC like parking lot or anything, over 8 hours day it'll lose a significant amount of energy just to stay warm.
Okay, I want to hop on that point. 8 hours parked at the GO train. We're talking -20. How much range, like by percentage, do you think you lose just in 8 hours?
It's hard to say because I haven't had to experience it because of COVID, but I'm sure there's reviews online of how much they lose overnight from people parking their car outside. So I don't want to give you an exact number, but it will lose, I would say a significant amount, but maybe like 5 to 10 kilometers, let's say, for an 8 hours. So
Oh, okay, that's nothing.
yeah,
See,
okay.
where I was coming from the fence is like, am I going to have significant degradation of my range, just like a phone, maybe frozen, and I
Yeah.
lose 50%? But that's not the case.
Yeah, you're not going to lose it in 8 hours, but I
Okay.
know they say that the average battery degradation over the wintertime is you'll lose 30 to 50% of your range. And I could see it being there. Like I haven't had to, I never did a full test where I charge it and I drive in the wintertime, like -10 degrees Celsius, and see how far I can go. Just because I don't need to drive 500 kilometers one way somewhere in the winter. But it is, you do lose a bit, but having the convenience of just charging at home overnight so that when you do wake up and you're ready to go, you're at full capacity, it's definitely nice to have.
Yeah, and it's very easy, right? You just drive into your garage, you just pop up the cover, and you just plug it in. It takes like, what, 20 seconds?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the good thing, I don't know if this is with all other EVs. I'm sure most other EVs do too. But you can schedule your charging so that you can do it during off-peak limit or off-peak charging rates, or you can do it so that it is at full capacity when you depart. So at least with the Tesla, you can say I am leaving for work at 8 a.m. Make sure that when you schedule it, it makes sure that your battery is at the capacity that you set it to, and that your cabin pressure and your battery is at full optimization so that it can recharge, or your interior of your car is at a comfy 20 degrees so that you're ready to go. So yeah.
And so even though you have it plugged in, by the way, in the garage, it won't charge until it says like you put the time in the app when you want it to begin charging.
Exactly. So they'll calculate like how long it will take to charge, and I think it's a little off. Like for example, like I set it to be, I wanted to depart at 9 o'clock, so that I would assume that it would be 100% by 9 o'clock, and it was done like super early, like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, like an hour, a full hour ahead of time. So
Right.
it could probably use a bit of tweaking for that, but I mean, maybe like they're like expecting people to leave early. Yeah,
Okay.
at least it's able to get it to the full capacity. And it's not even full capacity, it's whatever you set it. You can set it to like 80%, 90%, or 100%. So usually I only use that feature if I'm going on a road trip and I know that we're leaving at like 8 a.m. in the morning and we just want to like have it full charge so that we're ready to go.
Right. And the supercharger network, by the way, if you guys haven't seen the video, it was on my first drive in review. I'm also going to put it up on the video, but it's a pretty vast supercharger network in Ontario. I was actually surprised to see the amount of superchargers just dotted across all over Southern Ontario and Toronto. So that's the other thing I would say to people is that, if you do have those long road trips, there are superchargers everywhere. And that's the good thing about Tesla. They really invested in their supercharger network. I'm looking at it right now. They have 2,000 supercharger stations dotted across North America with over 20,000 superchargers.
Yeah, so it's definitely convenient. And so another app that I use, I haven't had to actually use it yet. It's called PlugShare, at least, and that will show you all the third-party non-Tesla. I'm sorry, not non-Tesla, but all the chargers everywhere. So it's meant for whatever the EV, or not EV, but the Volt and other EV cars that they need to charge, which they can't use a Tesla supercharger, so they have to use this. But fortunately, a lot of them do have Tesla superchargers as well for them. They'll have like an app, they'll have reviews of like when people use it last, which ones are broken, which car they had. So they, at least it's like it's a social app where it's like you kind of give ratings to how they did and if it's free or not, or if you have to pay for it.
Interesting. So that's a third party app, not
Yeah.
Tesla
No.
owned at all.
Yeah. So I mean, on top of like the Tesla supercharger, you can also rely on the non-Tesla chargers if they have a Tesla charger. So it just more reasons to help you with your range anxiety in case you're like, oh, I don't have a Tesla charger here, but hey, this hotel close by would have a charger.
Amazing. Well, listen, this was such a great chat. If any of you on the channel have any questions, leave them down in the comment box down below. If you like this video, make sure you like it again. And I want to say thank you so much for being part of the podcast, the Downshift Podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you also subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple, all of the places where any of these podcasts are hosted. And we will be doing more videos of the Tesla. My friend here has really got me into it, and we're talking about all these different things, and you all know on the channel I have my IS350. It's a little old in the tooth, right? I have my IS250, also very old in the tooth, both over 300,000 kilometers. And when I'm looking for my next car, I don't see why I wouldn't be going for an electric car like a Tesla to get me from point A to B, especially for those people that are looking for just a daily driver and a daily commuter. Again, the one thing we just talked about, the only thing we're missing is the noise, and that's the only thing. But let us know also in the comment box down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And again, thank you so much for being on the Downshift Podcast.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Cool. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next video.